Welcome back to True Story with John Gibson. Today we have a remarkable guest, Bailey Botten. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Completely my pleasure. We were just speaking offline, and I am such a fan of this artist. I am a fan of every single one of her pieces I've ever laid my eyes on. And I am so excited to have her on the show today so I can just pick her brain and learn so much more about her talent itself. So again, Bailey, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate it. I've been following your podcast forever, and I've been waiting for my invitation to come on.
Today is our day.
Today is our day.
We made it. Yeah. Look, with that, let's kind of high level celebrate. You just had a very recent exhibition. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Exhibition, however, yeah.
Perfect. In New York, correct? In the Mood. It was your second solo collection. Is that correct?
Yes. Awesome. So I had an exhibit at Gallery 23. It's in the Meatpacking District in New York. And we did the installation of that in May, beginning of May. Had a killer opening party, Cinco de Mayo. It was so fun. And we had about 40 people fly from Nashville to New York for the event. It was really, really fun. So I'm really grateful for the following that we have in Nashville for the art business. And yeah, they all made a huge appearance in New York. But yeah, that was my second solo show.
It's beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that you had that kind of support too. That's pretty significant. Let's go back in time here. So, I've known you on the peripheral for many years, of course, but you've had success in other realms, obviously real estate and marketing and social. I have learned from you for years and been so impressed with you. And then out of nowhere, to me anyway, all of a sudden you're producing this incredible artwork. And I was like, I didn't know she had this in her. I had no idea. So I guess hey, no one's listening. So for my sake alone, how did this happen? When did you start experimenting with your art, and what led you to ultimately say, I'm going to really pursue this?
Do it. Yeah. Well, so as you know, my sister and I have been in the real estate business for, we've had our team for about 7 years, I think, going on 7 years. And my grandmother owns our real estate brokerage. So we grew up in the business. My mom owns our mortgage company. My aunt owns a title company. My dad's the builder. So we have grown up real estate. Mm-hmm. And so we have built a very cool, successful business in the real estate industry in Nashville and in Florida specifically. But I've always been creative since I was little. I've always painted, and my sister, my mom, and I would be at a store. And my mom would be like, I love this painting. Or my sister would say, I want that. And it would be $50,000 or however much it was. And they'd be like, make that for me. And so I'd be, okay, I'd go home and literally make it, if not that exact one custom, something that they wanted, specific size or piece or whatever. And so I've always done that really for them. And I remember when I was younger creating, just going into creative, sprawls of 10 hours straight working on a piece of art. And then I wouldn't paint again for a month or 2 months or a year, however long. And so during the pandemic, I think this happened with a lot of people. I had more free time than I was used to. Correct. And our real estate business was still thriving during the pandemic. In fact, we were selling more homes because we were able to sell them via FaceTime. And so we're still selling property, but I just had all this excess time not running our brokerage that I started painting and started drawing again and got on my iPad and started playing around with it. And then I just had a dream of this whole collection of work. And so I was like, I guess I'm just going to start making this. And when I started posting it on my story, I sold a piece, and then I sold another piece.
Wow.
And then I sold another piece. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. I guess what I'm doing is working. And so that's kind of how it started. Another pandemic baby.
I know. Hey, this podcast wouldn't exist without the pandemic either. I get it, but your art is way better than mine. And
it's all good.
What a cool story. What a cool story that it organically happened that way. And talent, you can't keep it down. I love that. Because I'm so I wish I could be more well-versed and articulated about this, but I love your work. I love your colors. I love your choices.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing. Like it's really great. How do you describe if somebody is totally uninitiated and they're listening only with their ears right now? How do you describe your work?
When somebody has never seen my work, I refer to it as intimate pop art.
Oh,
I don't
perfect.
know how else to describe it, but it's pop art, but it's almost everything. I love the human form. I love like the way that God created us and how it fits perfectly and how it's chaotic and there's layers and there's so many different ways to have a relationship with people. And it's really funny. I think it was my sister or someone had asked me when I first started painting, that she was like, aren't you gonna run out of things like bodies to paint? And I was like, I don't think so. I think there's so many
Awesome.
different ways to
Yeah.
paint the human form and interactions and hands and feet and just things that make us who we are and make
Yeah.
us God made us. So the collection, well, I'll let you ask, but about the collections if you want
Well,
specific.
no, please. I'd love to know from your perspective the difference of the first one to the second one, because I mean, obviously you grew as an artist in between, and I mean, you tell me maybe what that was like, that those different differentiators, maybe.
Yeah. So the first collection, what I named it Phases of Intimacy. And the whole collection told a story of really just truly my own experience of relationships up until this point. When I was making this collection, is it starts out really playful and fun and colorful and kissing and it's really, the word is playful at the beginning, and then it kind of goes into a little bit more moody. I'm going along the line of how the
I'm
gallery.
visually imagining a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally, and
Well,
I
there's
love the
videos
lit
you can
pictures.
see.
I love some of these. Yeah, so it's
Yeah, there's videos you could see of the layout of how it was, but
yeah,
it started out really playful and then it gets a little more moody. It gets a little bit more chaotic. Then into like I have a huge painting. It's called Mine, and it's a woman grabbing a guy's crotch,
I know the one. Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like my staple piece. Everyone knows it.
yeah.
It's 108 inches, like it's huge, and it's a woman grabbing a guy's crotch, and it's called Mine, and I love that piece so much. I'm a Leo. I'm very like, what's mine is mine. Don't touch it. Like, especially in relationships.
Yeah.
I'm not the cool girlfriend. I'm the crazy girlfriend. Like, don't touch it. It's
But
mine.
it's amazing though, because your work would totally it would lead me to believe the opposite of
Otherwise, I know. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, actually, I love that I'm learning this about you because I never would have guessed that ever. Like, it's so intriguing to me.
Well, I always tell my guy friends, I'm like, the crazy girls are not the ones that are like, hey, I know I'm a little bit like out here. The crazy girls are the ones that are like, I'm the cool girl. That's the one. Those are the ones.
Wow, you're
So
well, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I like to show up, just as I am. Like, this is what you're gonna get if you're gonna hang in close proximity to me. So, but I mean, this work was like, I really was inspired to create this specific collection because I feel like there is this loss of that commitment is no longer sexy in this generation and in this world we're living in. Commitment is a lot of things, but sexy is like the last word that most people would use to describe it. And as a believer, and as someone who, believes in marriage and believes that, I just wanted to paint the picture commitment could be sexy.
Yeah.
And so in my perception, I was trying to find pictures, take photos, any photos I took. If it's couples, I recruited married couples. I wanted it to be this sexualization of commitment.
Yeah.
And that make that feel sexy again. And so when people would come in and ask me my experience of the collection, I'm like, they would be like, kind of like, huh? Like,
well, it's amazing. No, I love it. And it makes me love your work more because look, it's very, you so clearly articulate intimacy, like on like on not like the sexual box, maybe the conduit, but it's this intimacy thing is what I would have said. but it's commitment. Like it's actually like as I listen to you
Commitment.
explain it to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
wow. So I admire it even more. All right, let me ask you this. Let me transition a little. And we may have touched on this a little earlier, but tell me about your customer. Who most appreciates
Yeah.
your work? Because I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm in this.
Literally.
I'm one of
No,
them.
you're actually like the perfect demographic. So my friend Josh and I, Josh Martinez, he's a brilliant investor. He's in all business, he's brilliant. And so we sit down and I'm like, I really want to dial in this business. I want to understand like who I'm marketing to, because at the end of the day, my business is online outside of my gallery. So I'm like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right things here?
Mhm.
And he sits down with me, we go through it, and he's like, okay, so who buys your art? And I'm like, well, I have a couple collectors, a woman out of Miami, like a few galleries. I have like 4 or 5 pieces in Korea right now at a show. But the main buyers from my online existence are men between the ages of 30 and like 60 years old. And sorry, my dogs are walking around. Between the ages of 30 and 60 years old. And they're single, they're disposable income.
Yeah.
They're hanging out. I don't know. Like that's just who we like pin down is my buyer.
Yeah.
And I
I
mean,
get it. Sure. Yeah, it's
I
so interesting. Yeah, but you know what I love about that is you unknowingly they're all getting these vibrations and like messages of commitment through your work. It's like
100%.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Like my best friend Ed, he has a beautiful mansion on the east side. East side is East Ivy Mansion, and he just commissioned a beautiful, huge 72-inch piece, and it is a girl blindfolded, and to me, it communicates like blind trust, like this lead me where I'm going, femininity.
Mm,
And to him, I don't know what it communicates.
sure.
I think he's hoping it's going to communicate something, but I'll let him speak for himself. So to me, what
Yeah.
that painting was to me, and I loved it so much. And so when he commissioned that, it was one of my favorite pieces.
Is that I've never talked to an artist like you before. This is so interesting to me. Is it difficult for you, or have you ever even considered like your work to you means something. You created it, obviously is this particular connection to you, right? But do you have to kind of like divorce yourself from that a little bit when you sell that piece, huh? And obviously it may mean something new to someone else, right? Like, is that odd for you, or is that just not even part of it?
I think my connection to my art, yeah, it's definitely weird when I sell a piece. Like just thinking about all the work that's gone out into the world now, it's like I kind of like they're like my kids. I kind of wonder where they are.
No, I'm sure.
Are they happy there? In a weird way. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what I love so much about being at Art Basel. I did a piece and I did a gallery, like a pop-up gallery in Wynwood for Art Basel. And literally it was so fun to have. I mean, thousands of people came through and people were coming and going, what is your experience of this art? What is your heart behind this art?
That's cool.
I would be like, what is yours?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to know their, like, because it was so interesting to hear other people's experiences of like, because art it just provokes these feelings. Hold on one second. So yeah, I did an exhibit in a pop-up gallery in Wynwood for Art Basel this past December. And it was wild to see like thousands of people come through and they would ask me like, hey, what is your heart behind these pieces? What's your art behind this collection? I would just be like, what's your heart behind it? Like, what do you think it means? What do you see when you look at this painting? And it was just it was a really interesting way to hear other people's perceptions and experiences of the art and not really like pushing my own beliefs onto them or like my own experiences onto them, because my experiences of relationships are probably so different or maybe the same as anyone coming through those galleries. So I really enjoyed getting to hear other people's experiences. But yeah, it's hard to part from the art, but at the end of the day, it's like that's what it's for. It's not meant to just like sit in my
No,
house for
for
me to
sure.
stare at
Well,
it.
not if you're as talented as you are. Like, and I'm not. This sounds cliche and silly, but like, if I was as talented in anything, like it's meant to be shared. Like it's meant to be given and shared. So like that's what you need to be doing with your talent. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it all tells a message, right? Like, and it's, and again, it's all experience. It's all your own perception, really, as the consumer is some people see it and they go, "Ooh, that's provocative." But I'm like, that's a married couple. Like,
well, listen, let me ask that. Well, and I love that about your work now. Now, and look, this is why I'm so excited to have had this conversation with you. But
yeah.
let me ask this. So hey, the first collection was like flirty and fun, right? And lips and
Yeah.
amazing, love it. What did your father think of a piece like mine? Like, like
My dad is super supportive. He he doesn't actually I don't actually know what he thinks. He actually installed all that artwork with me. He I mean,
I'm
he's the
sure
most
they're very supportive. I love it. But like
supportive.
your work is so it's amazing. And I
Thank
wonder,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, he actually hasn't given me his experience of it, but I that's a great question. I'll have to ask him.
It will be great. I'd love to know.
Like,
We'll have
Dad,
to
what do
come
you
back
think
for
of
that one.
mine? Yeah. I'm like, what do you think of mine? He'll be like, it's great.
Yeah, I'm sure he's very proud. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, look, your work is it's definitely it's for sure thought provoking, right? But I think it actually like really helps from a conversational piece too. Like
for
I've
sure.
sent a couple screenshots, people have been like, what do you think about this? And even when communicating with you, I'm like, God, I want to buy this one, but I kind of want to buy this one.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to decide, like, well, if I do this one first, maybe, and like I'll ask a couple of friends of mine's feedback too, because I'm like, what would even work here,
Mhm.
And it's interesting because I do think everybody's going to look at your paintings and kind of have a totally different interpretation.
Totally.
Right?
Well, and it's so interesting you say that. The last collection was called In the Mood, and I was going through a training called Journey Within at the Choice Center in Las Vegas, and it's basically emotional intelligence, but
Mm,
it's really I've learned a lot about the light and the dark sides of myself, the personality that lives in me, that a lot of people, we all have a light and a dark side, and a lot of these dark sides we deem like unlovable, and that people won't like this, and it's shoved down and it's hidden. And so in the midst of me kind of leaning into this dark side of myself, dark side, the shadow, if you call it,
mm,
the parts of myself that I might deem unlovable, the insecure, sad, whatever parts of myself,
yeah,
and that we all have
totally.
some extent.
Mhm.
um when I started to embrace that, what came out was the In the Mood collection. And if you see it compared to the first collection of work, it's neutral, dark
Yeah.
tones,
Darker, way darker. Yeah.
and it's like that what comes to mind is the painting Don't Want To, and it's a girl like laying. At first my mom was like, is she dead? And I was like, no, she's not dead, she's sleeping. I get such I catch so much shit because I sleep like 12 hours a day. I like to sleep, I love it. I wake up and I go, and then I sleep, and I like to sleep a lot. If you follow my Instagram, you see like all these memes about sleeping. That's all people send me. They think it's hilarious. But I catch shit for that. And it's turned into something that I was like almost insecure, and like it was made wrong when I was younger.
Mm,
And so I just started painting all these things. I was like, this is who I am. These are the sides of me that I've deemed unlovable, or
wow.
that if I sat down with someone and they go, I've deemed this unlovable about myself, and I would get some inspiration to paint that or
Yeah.
whatever it was, right? And so that's where the In the Mood collection came from, was these parts of myself that it's like, okay, now we've gone through what it's like in relationship. What about in relationship with yourself? Like,
Yeah.
what parts of yourself are we hiding because someone told us that it was unlovable, or someone told us that it was not good enough, or just that we needed it to be different. And it was such a moment of like aha for me,
Right.
because it's when you I think the importance of that, of knowing that, is learning to embrace that part of yourself, or those parts. that because you can't have one without the other. The light without the dark doesn't work.
Of
It's the
course.
yin and the yang.
You've done a
So
lot of work, obviously, to
yeah,
understand it.
yeah.
But like it really and I've looked at everything I could see that you've ever made. Like I swear I'd love to say I've seen it all. I'm sure I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot of it.
There's
And
some out there that maybe you haven't seen yet, but not most. I pretty much put everything out there. Yeah.
well, it blows my mind to hear all of this because it's some of it so went over my head. And as you describe it, I'm like, I know that painting. And
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, and it's I really appreciate that perspective as you tell the story. Was it cathartic for you? Well, let me say that I don't.
Oh,
so many questions for you.
no, for
I feel
sure,
like
cathartic. Like,
it had to be, right? But
yeah.
I feel like you're so body positive anyway. Like, so it's maybe a two-part question. Was it super cathartic, owning that one thing about yourself and coming through it, making something beautiful, beautiful art out of it?
Yeah.
And then the second part question is, do you have other women that reach out to you saying, you're like making me feel better about myself? Because I feel like you have that superpower to do so. So is that happening?
So, well, as far as the cathartic part, absolutely. I think it was a fear. When I sat down to make the In the Mood collection, there were a few pieces that I was like, this is too much. This is going to be a lot.
Yeah.
Might come with judgment. This might come with whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
Our egoic minds do a lot of things to protect us. And I get that. And it's usually, for good. But I would start to work on these pieces and I said, you know what? No, there's nothing wrong with this piece of art. This is what I want to say. I'm going to make this. And of course, we opened the show in New York and the 3 that I was like, I'm not putting these out. This is too much. We're the only 3 that sold the open night.
I'm so happy for you that happened that way.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to be brave, right? Yeah.
But it's just, if any artist is listening to this, like what I learned, and it's Rick Rubin, the Rick Rubins of the world. Do you know who he is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone knows who he is. Like, it's the Rick Rubins of the world. It's like you don't make the project for the consumer. Mm. And that was what was in my head when I was making the In the Mood collection. I said, I'm going to abandon myself if I start down this road of what's going to sell, because it can't be about that. And so like my heart goes out to artists that it is their, like, I feel very fortunate. I have a business outside of art. It doesn't matter if I sell any art this month. Of course, I would love for it to be my full-time business, but it isn't. And so if nothing sells this month, that's okay. Like, we're still going to eat. My dog is still going to have dog food.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, it was like, holy shit, you cannot have this project be about what's going to sell. And
it's amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing. And that was really the biggest breakthrough I had in this last collection of work was where can I push my creative boundaries, but still stay true to my relationship with the Lord and the commitment of it. Like, the commitment is sexy is always in the back of my head. Is like, what is this communicating? Is this commitment, or is it committed, or is this communicating promiscuity?
Mm-hmm. So let me ask, and you totally answered that. Thank you so much. Like, because I know
sorry,
no, that was amazing. No, let me kind of ask sort of the second part of that too, though. Do you get outreach from women, like, and fans? Like, you're unique. Sure. Like, you're really unique, and like, not. It's difficult to put yourself out there. It's so hard, you know. And you've done it in like you've really expressed yourself in like amazing ways. Like, so are you receiving feedback for that?
I'm not a words of affirmation person. And so,
are
like,
you action?
I'm a acts of service.
Acts of service.
Like, if I'm dating someone, your hands on my butt, that means you love me. If you tell me I'm pretty, I'm like, what else? Like, so when someone reaches, I've absolutely had people reach out and give me, I guess we call it praise for my work. And not necessarily specifically women though. Men,
really?
Men too, that I don't necessarily get anything about like body positivity or body.
Really? I'm just so, you just own yourself. Like, God, you feel so comfortable in your skin.
I do have I do, I do have women send me photos of themselves all the time. Can you paint this? I'm like, yes.
Yeah,
So I have a lot of paintings of girlfriends, and you don't know who they are. I don't paint eyes.
sure.
I probably never. That's kind of my thing, because I want people to be able to see themselves in a painting.
Wow, that's so. What an interesting little note you gave us
Yeah,
right
I
there.
don't paint eyes. I
Wow, an
don't paint
insight. Wow,
from here down, or from here down. So
wow.
I leave that up for interpretation. But yeah, I have one painting of myself.
Only
One,
one?
only one.
I've been fooled all along.
Yeah, I have one painting of myself. And I was actually out with a couple friends the other night, and the guys were like, "Tell us which one, we'll buy it right now." And I was like, "Yes, you're gonna have to guess and buy all of them. I don't know."
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually a really good play. You should do
yeah.
that.
So
Because
I
I'm
got
super
that with
stoked.
it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's mine. That's my hand. Buy
Yes.
mine.
You got to keep something to yourself. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Man, I'm fascinated by you. This is really great. And we've been focusing so much on your artwork, but like this is all also in tandem with a very successful career.
yeah.
Like you actually like work full time and have a real life and a real job. So like that's also even more impressive. Was there any pushback or was there total support when you were like, I'm gonna pursue this, and all of a sudden things happen? I mean, it seems like relatively quickly for you. I mean,
Yeah, it has happened very quick. Well, and I'll say this, that I started painting. I was in a relationship. I ended that relationship in February of 2021. I came home, and I had a lot of resentment in this relationship because I had been working on painting before I got in it. And the few months I was dating this guy, I didn't even go in my studio.
mhm.
So I was like, this isn't it. There's just something about this relationship. It was very distracting. At that time, I loved the guy I was with. But we're still super great friends. But it was a relationship that pulled me away from what I had been working on, and I didn't know how to balance that. And so when that relationship ended, I went out into my studio, and from February to November, I had a solo exhibit in Nashville. No, no one knew I was painting besides anyone that follows me on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I sent out
Wow.
300 personalized written invitations. I printed the invitations, wrapped them in paper with a feather and a freaking paintbrush
Mm.
on the invitations. They were beautiful. Sent out 300 of those individually and did a show in Nashville. And the show in Nashville, I think we had 500 people come. It was huge.
Wow. Yeah.
And the night before, one of the Titans players, I don't need to give you his name, but
Sure, sure.
he came through for a private tour and bought my first piece of art from the shows, right? And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I was like, we're about to sell out this bitch, like 100%. And so we do the show. My dad and I sit down at the W Hotel to get a drink after the show's over.
Mm.
And I knew we had sold thousands of dollars worth of merch. I mean,
Sure.
I sold every sweatshirt, every print. I mean, we were sold out of everything.
Awesome.
And so the merch thing was great. It went amazing. My dad sits down with me. He's like, baby, how many paintings did we sell? And I said, Dad, I don't know. I didn't even look yet. And he was like, okay, well, why don't we look? And I said, okay. And I went on there on my Squarespace site and everything. And we had sold none.
What?
Not one painting opening night. Now, fast forward to what I know now, it is very, I can't speak for other artists, but at my gallery and at the galleries that I tour with and that I'm doing shows with, it's very rare to sell anything,
Mhm.
much less like 10 pieces or sell
Sure.
a collection.
Yeah.
I know a few artists that do that for sure, but for someone like me who doesn't, it's my first show.
Your
No
first
one knows
show.
I'm a
It's
painter.
your first show. Yeah.
Much less are they spending $10,000 on a painting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and so I just equated my prices for the time. It
Mm.
took me a year to paint these, and so
I
I'm
feel
used to
like you're reasonable. I mean,
yeah, I'm used to real estate money, so I'm like, five
yeah.
grand, like, what is it? Yeah.
Look,
So
you're really talented. Like
thank
honestly,
you.
I just feel like
Well, and so fast forward, so that night, I mean, I start crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, this
I'm
is
sorry. Yeah.
the total failure. This is, well, I think it's relative to the story because that's a part of it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the most, because I went to sleep that night and I was like, God, what have I done? Like, I look like an idiot. I shouldn't be doing this. Like, I had the whole wave of the emotions of
Mhm.
like, of expecting one thing and like expectation totally being the thief of joy.
You're also not painting landscapes. So like you
100%.
really put yourself out there. Like, oh my
100%.
heart. Like
And so, no, it was great because the next morning I woke up and I said, you know what? F this. And I got on the phone and started offering private tours of the gallery.
mm,
So I had this space for 3 days. That's
mm,
it. And so now when I do a pop-up gallery or anything like
yeah,
that, I'm there for a month minimum.
yeah.
And so the next 3 days, I got them to extend the space so I could stay there for a few more days. And the next 3 days, I sold 5 paintings.
Awesome. Yeah,
And so
awesome.
you have to,
Yeah.
I guess I just say that because it's like I didn't know. And that was a part of the growing pain was I had to go through that very painful, like it wasn't even embarrassing. It was a huge success, the event, but it was a me versus me moment where I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you can either fall back and quit and go back to what you're already not happy doing,
Mm,
or you can push through this wall, jump over it, go around it. I don't know how you're going to do it, but we're going to figure this out. And I just felt God nudge me and go get them, baby. Get on that phone, like go.
love it.
And
Yeah.
it was just like, and I had to do it. Otherwise, now I've got 30 paintings. What am I going to do with all these things?
Right, right. First of all, and that's amazing too. You did a lot of work from February to November. Like you were
Yeah.
really great. You had a lot to express. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
had a lot inside of you. Wow.
Well, after that, my dad and I packed up all the art and we put it back in the U-Haul, take it to our office. And I said, you know what? Art Basel is in a month. It's in December.
Mm,
So my sister and I got on a flight. I went down to Art Basel, found a space, and I did a gallery down there.
love it. Yeah.
And so I rolled everything into my dad. Ugh, my dad and mom are such angels. Like they went and bought a 14-foot trailer for me to take all the art down to Miami. And I stayed down there for the month of December and sold art and met people and collectors and artists and everything. And then everything that was left, we brought back. And then we had my ex-boyfriend he lives in New York. He calls me, he goes, he's Israeli. He's like, baby, I see your artwork. You're coming to New York. And he set
I
me
mean,
up with, oh, he
yeah,
set me
no,
up.
please. Because I mean, this is such a huge achievement. And
Oh my God, it was crazy. He's
yeah,
like, you're coming to New York. It was such a God thing that I was like, what? And he goes, no, I have a gallery. You're going to come meet them and you're going to do a show here. And so I went up to New York in March, literally not even a year after I'd started painting, went up to New
right.
York in March, saw the space, did the measurements, did everything. And then I created In the Mood and I took the In the Mood and the existing work up there. And so it all lives in New York now.
It's beautiful.
So
It's
it's
just
just been a crazy
I mean,
whirlwind
a
year.
whirlwind. It had to
Yeah.
have been. Yeah, I hope you feel self-realized. Like I hope you like have a moment to reflect and feel like proud of yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's good. Yeah.
I think I've had to get rid of the perfectionism, like conversation of like, it should be this way and it should be this and or that or whatnot. And thinking that it's supposed to be this perfect laid out, every show sells out thing.
Right.
And in
Sure.
reality, like, I just want to let people know that that's not how any business works.
Mm,
The internet is so misleading. Everybody thinks it's like this, like beautiful Cinderella story. It's not. It's not always rainbows and sunshine. You got to
right.
go through the hills and the valleys and the lulls and all the things because that's where the learning is.
Yeah.
That's where the fun is.
100%.
So, yeah.
All right, two-part question here. I know we're coming up on time, but is there another collection in the works? Is there something I can kind of be anticipating?
There is.
Okay.
I am planning a show November 3rd.
Congratulations. All right.
Thank you. I am going to pretty much do what we did last year. I'm going to build a collection between now and November 3rd. We'll do a show in Nashville.
All right, I'm there. All right, I'm
Yeah,
ready. I can
yeah.
do that. I was like, please say Nashville. Yes.
Yeah. We're gonna do an opening. We always will do an opening show in Nashville when we take
There.
the tour out because it just makes sense at this point. Like
Yeah.
I was so it was funny, the show in New York, everyone flew up there. I sold 4 pieces, those 3 pieces opening night and then 2 more after that. And they were all bought by Nashville people. I'm like,
Really?
bought these
Yeah,
in
gonna
Nashville?
stay
Like,
home.
I couldn't take them all the way home. Yeah. So we'll do the collection show here. I'll leave it up for 3 weeks and then we'll go to Art Basel.
Beautiful. And then last but not least, where can people reach out to you if they have questions, if they want to check out some of your pieces, if they want to purchase them? What's the best place to contact you?
I mean Instagram. Instagram's fine. Baybod. Or they can email me. All my contacts on there. I think Instagram's just easiest because it's easier for me to keep track of it.
Same here. Same here. And I'll make sure to link that here for everybody. This was like such a pleasure of like, I really enjoyed all of this and I appreciate you sharing so many insights, especially in your work. I'm like, I was a fan before, like I'm going to be looking at it all night. Like I can't go back now. I can't.
Yeah. Cause now you have all of your backstory. I mean, literally somebody asked me this the other day and I think it's so funny, but they were like, what is the goal? Like my friend Art Lana, he's an artist out of Miami and he's like, what's your goal in art? Like what's the goal? And I said, if I had an exhibit at the MoMA in New York, just shoot me. I'm fine to die. Like I'm fine. Like I'm fine. I don't need to do anything else. And so like, it's just,
you're going to manifest it. It's going to happen.
No, we are manifesting. Someone from the MoMA is going to hear this interview and go, oh yeah. So that's, that's really what we're working towards. But I mean, I'll plan to just do a tour every, fall into the spring and then take the summer to relax and sell some houses.
Yeah. And that too, right?
Yeah.
While you're at it. Man.
Oh my gosh, we got $8 million in real estate contracts this week, and I was like, "What's happening?"
No, like you're
it's been a real estate week.
No, like honestly, like so much of this is like I have been impressed with your business acumen in real for years, and your marketing, social media. Again, when I was like, I had no idea. It's one thing to be like somebody's a hobbyist and something, like oh they paint.
Sure,
like, you're so talented that I was like she could have just done this forever. Like I had no idea, So I
definitely don't go halfway into anything. I'm like either we're going or we're not.
That we have learned. That is true. For nothing else, that is for certain.
Yeah.
Bailey, thank you so much.
Again, yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Again, true story, Bailey Botten. Thank you so much.
Thank you.